Hey everybody, welcome back. How's it going? This is Tom, Moto-Resto LLC, Braden, Florida. And yeah, yet another mower video, but a little different. I just bought this. I want to go over it. We're going to do an inspection together. I looked at it, of course, when I bought it. This is actually a very, very well maintained unit. You said unit again. But let's go over it together and I'll show you what we got. Lift the bonnet. Okay, so this again is an LT2000 Craftsman, and they're all, I think, built by MTD, so it's like pretty much knockoff, or not a knockoff, but a copy of the other ones, and just a couple of different changes, size of the deck and engine. This has got a 21 horsepower. It's got a Briggs and scrap iron, which is nice, instead of that Kohler crap. I think the Kohler, like the one I have in my red mower, that one I've had on video before, the Troy built, that's a, 18 or 19 with a 42-inch deck, and that's a piece of shit. So this is actually a nice motor to have, I think, is a Briggs and scrap iron and something like this. I can't really go into why, because, you know, it's just kind of a personal feeling, personal choice, but as you can see, this thing is immaculate. And if you saw this young man's garage, and the vehicle, he's got a jacked up, raised, you know, really custom 2017 Jeep, you know, the high-end edition Wrangler. And oh my God, this guy's, you could eat off this guy's floor, where here you wouldn't want to shit on it. So this guy is definitely a maintenance fiend, and that's good for me, because what this mower I paid for, which I don't think was very much, considering they're very kind of getting difficult to get now. I think it's because of the supplier chain issues. I was going to say food chain, but I guess it's the same thing. And new mowers are not necessarily getting cranked out in the numbers, I'm guessing, as they were before. All right, so this mower has a bagger system, as you can see. Not a bagger Vance either. But this one, I do have all the tubes for, you know, the connectors and stuff. They're in the trailer still, which is right there. And I'm not going to take them out right now because it's unnecessary. This is going to come off right now anyway, because what I'm going to use this for is when it's leaf season. Normally I just mulch the crap out of them with one of my mowers, and it's a waste of energy, waste of time. It generates too much dust and my allergies go crazy. Speaking of mulch, that's what he has it set up for right now. He has a mulcher cover and mulcher blades in there, so I'm going to have to change those out to high lift blades. And so, like I said, this thing is in super, super nice shape. I mean, immaculate. It's amazing what great shape it's in. So let's go ahead. I'll put you in the stand. We'll get this guy off here, see how it goes. It's pretty simple, it looks like, to come off. So we'll just do that and then we'll move on. So it looks like it just hangs on here, and it's got like a thumb wheel inside there, or a thumb screw. And all we got to do is unscrew that, I think, and just lift it off. I've never had one with a bagger before, so. Oh, okay. This is actually a nut. It's a wing nut. And then this must rotate out. Yeah, and then you just lift it off, I guess. All right, so we got is a wing nut and a carriage bolt that goes through there to hold that in. Oops. And then we just lift it off. Ugh, maybe. Oh boy, that's got some weight to it, actually. I thought it was lighter than that. This is kind of neat. It's got like a frame, metal frame. I like that. Like I said, I've never had one with a bagger before. Warning, Will Robinson. I just wanted to get that out of my way. I already looked at the oil up there. Let's look at it again. Oil is good, but it's dirty. Definitely needs to be changed. We'll do that. Not a problem. No metal pieces in it. Well, at least not big ones. Tires are in good shape. He said that he's had a bunch of punctures because of the type of trees that shed on his acre that he's got behind his house. I forgot what he said, and you know what kind of tree it was, but he said he's put some tubes in the tires, and I actually have a spare wheel, whole front wheel, and I'm not really sure why, but I got an idea. I'll show you that here in a minute. But you can see on the left side of the mower, the driver's side, you got a cup holder. Of course, I don't drink, so it ain't going to have anything but water. And the deck is in really, really nice shape compared to that monstrosity Troy built, which, you know, I'm patching together with chewing gum, baling wire, and fiberglass resin and fiberglass cloth. So nice setup here. I mean, it's in really good shape. I'll probably eventually dump the OEM fuel line for something better, because I want to put a fuel shutoff. I always put a fuel shutoff in line with these. even though it has the solenoid actuated fuel shutoff. When you turn the key on, because this is in a normally up or normally closed, if you will, position, pushing up against the bottom where the main jet goes into the carburetor body. 12 volts will bring that down, and it stays down as long as the ignition is energized, basically, and allows that fuel flow. And then when you shut it off, it goes back up. Now, those are notoriously prone to failure, and there's two reasons why they put those on. Number one is to prevent backfiring when you shut them off, because it immediately shuts the fuel off. You can't pull any out of the float bowl, theoretically. The other reason is because you don't have a fuel shut off in line here, a mechanical one. You can potentially overflow the carburetor into the engine, and if you have an intake valve open, you can actually flood the crankcase rather with gas. And these things are not no freaking high-end Makini or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a Nico or whatever those brands are. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm not taking it off. But it's just one of these things that I always do. I'll do that another time, probably not in this video. And the fuel tank is just clean. Everything is just so nice and clean. Did a really nice job maintaining this thing. Said he washed the deck every time he used it with this guy right here. My mowers have those. I've never used them once. So I guess there is something to using that. But we'll take a look at the bottom of the deck here in a minute, as much as we can at least. So, yep, let's go ahead and pull this off and take off the cover for the air cleaner. Take a look at that. Because, normally I go through and I kind of shotgun. Oh, come on, you. Shotgun a maintenance thing on one of these things when I buy them. And yeah, we're going to change that out too. This air filter is pretty dirty, and so that's not a problem. But hey, it's a used mower, so we'll change this out. We'll change the oil. Probably change the oil filter too. It's got a Briggs oil filter. I wouldn't be surprised that's original. Maybe not. I do not know how many hours are on this because it does not have an hour meter, but being in the shape that it's in, I couldn't say that it is much. Okay, if you jack up a mower like this on a flat surface even, and you're going from the center of the rear end as transaxle, which I'm going to do, just be advised that it's going to start swinging back and forth on you because the front end's like an independent suspension. It's got a center, it's got a pivot. It's got a pivot in the center, and it's like a solid axle on an old pickup truck. It just kind of does this. So you just got to make sure that you're aware of that. It'll do what I want it to do. You just got to get up high enough. Alright, so now you see how this thing will warble like this. So we just have to keep that in mind. It'll scare the crap out of you the first time going, oh my god. We'll go ahead and check this left rear wheel. Okay, so there is a little play, but that's in the actual wheel over the axle assembly where it penetrates into the wheel itself, and that's okay. What I'm looking for is whether this thing is flopping around in there, and it's not, so that looks good. You actually want that because if you ever have to pull the wheel off or something, you don't want these things seized on here. They can get real hard to get off. So this one's doing the same thing, which is wiggling right there at the where it pivots through to where it slides on the axle, the wheel itself. And what it is there's a key in there, and it keys into the wheel, and then that's how it gives it its drive. So here's what happens if you take these wheels off, any of these that have the key on one side or the other, and then you forget to put the key in. Some of them are actually made in there, but were actually made into the wheel. They're part of the wheel assembly, like when they stamp it out. But if not, and the key comes out, if it falls out and you don't see it and put the wheel back on, even if the other key is in, it won't move because this is not a locking or a limited slip rear end. It's a very simple, differential style rear end that where both wheels need to be onto something firm, not slippery, otherwise the thing ain't going to move forward or backwards. So you just got to keep that in mind when you do any type of work on these things. How do I know? Well, I didn't do it, but I know other people that have, so that's how I know. Now we'll get under the front here and see how it's looking up there. These things are notorious for wearing out too. They have bushings in them. The wheels, that is, but looks like it's been pretty well greased, so let's see what we got. But we got to take the load off them first to really check them, completely and thoroughly. Okay, so here's the right. This is the problem that you run into these, and it's nothing bad. I mean, it's just one of these things that happens. This rear bushing is completely gone where it sits in there. It's a bearing or a bushing or something. We'll take it apart and I'll show you what I mean. but it's, you know, it's real common, and so we'll have to address that before we use this. Now, like I said, he gave me another wheel, but I doubt the innards come with it. I'll have to look at that. I don't even know how these are supplied when you buy a wheel. I certainly doubt it. These companies nitpick the shit out of you for parts, so you never get nothing with nothing. You have to buy everything individually. So we'll take a look at that, but that's why it was looking that way. It really should be more like that when it's sitting down like the other one was. The other one is worn too, but it's not as bad. So let's go ahead. We'll pull this one off. I have a scissor type jack underneath it, one of these motorcycle deck jacks. So it's not going to go anywhere. We'll just leave it there. But we'll take the welcome back cotter pin out, and we'll pull this wheel off and see what we got going. Okay, so we got this off, and here's the problem. It's not so much the bushing in here. It may be worn, but I don't know. The shaft is toast. There's no question that this shaft is done. I mean, it's stepped out more than, you know, it looks like part of a crankshaft of a tiny motor. It's oblonged and, you know, it's screwed up. So what we're going to end up having to do is probably replace this, but I'm going to go ahead and see if that's even available. You never know. I cannot put it in the lathe and turn this down, smooth it out, and make a sleeve or something for this. I could make a sleeve, but I got to bore out the these bushings, which I could do pretty easily. But I do have a piece of stock here that's a little bit bigger, but it's not big enough for this. A little bit bigger than the actual sleeves. This would have to be, I mean, this part is, this is an old axle off a motorcycle, hollow one, so, you know, this would actually be pretty good, but that ain't going to work. So let me go look it up, see what we got. If you're wondering how I looked up these parts, you can look at my video on navigating parts fishes. I use partstree.com pretty much, and then, you know, I can search for it there, buy it there if I want, because it has all the fishes, just like motorcycle fishes, has the pictures and stuff. These are only 40 bucks a piece for this thing, so I'll probably end up just ordering them. But for now, I think I'm just going to make something. We'll go ahead and knock out these bushings here and bore them out to something, but I got to find the stock first to make sure I got something that goes over that that'll be, you know, with enough wall thickness to do what I needed to do. I don't have anything closer than this axle I think I showed before. I measured it out. The nominal thickness, there's two places here where it's not worn, so they're about the same. 3/4 of an inch, 0.750, and this is like 0.783. This will give me 30 thousandths total, or 15 on the side, and I'll bore this out to the whatever the nominal for that is, what this is now, and we can slip that over and at least use it temporarily. And I can make one for both sides pretty much by just doing the whole thing, but we'll do them in pieces because my boring bar is only so long, and so what we're going to do here is going to get the threaded part off, just cut it off with a hacksaw or something, and then we'll put it in and start working this down. I'm not sure if I'm going to work down the larger part or not. Let's see. I might end up having to do a little bit, but we'll just screw with the amount we need on this end, I think, first. Yeah, really just got to do ID work on it, so, well, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Well, I went ahead and cut the threaded part off and the bigger part off that was part of the axle assembly that actually went through the lower fork, you know, that bike on that one side. Well, anyway, this hole at the end is actually pretty small. I can't get my boring bar in there, so I think it's a 19/32 drill bit. It's the biggest one I can find besides up to a 3/4, and that 3/4 ain't in the greatest shape, and plus it would be too big. So remember, we're looking for a 3/4 ID on this. The OD is going to be what it is, because we'll bore the bushings out to fit it. But in this case, this little lathe has a hard time, even with those bigger to this lathe drill bit. So what we're going to do is we'll put it in back gear on a high speed. On back gear on these lathes, what you do is you pop out this little connector, little pin, and what that does is allows the chuck to you know, free turn, independent of the pulley, which is driven directly from the motor. And all you do is engage the back gear like this, and now your power goes from here to here to here to here. So you have 2 gear reductions. That's how the back gear works. We don't need any feed, so we'll take that off so it's not robbing the minuscule amount of horsepower this thing's got anyway. What is it, 1/3? And we'll see if we can drill that out somewhere. Let me make sure the part is tight in the chuck. This thing doesn't like to do operations like this, but it'll do it. I need just to go yay far. I'll measure that out here in a minute, but let's test it out and see how we do with this first. Safety squints engaged, and we'll bring the tailstock back in to get a little bit more length. I'm always looking for length. Give it a shot. That's obviously too slow for this bit in any other application, but for me, it's going to have to work. I don't really care if the part is not around like that, because I'm not doing the OD anyway. I'm doing the ID. We'll cut it to length, and then we'll put it in and do the ID. It'll be a lot easier to manage. That way we can face it then, too. That should be fine, because I'm going to need 3 1/4, and from the actual diameter of the drill back, 3 1/4 is about there, and I went almost to the end of the drill, so that's going to be fine. I'm going to take it over to the I'll take it over to the portaband now. We'll cut that down to length. For a little lathe like this, a hobbyist lathe, that's a lot of work for it. So I don't try to part anything in the lathe, especially steel, when I don't have to, because again, it's a lot of load on it with a parting blade. You can do it, but it's you don't need to. So I took this over. Actually, I'm doing 3 1/8 inch because it's about half and half pieces. So I got the back ear disengaged, and I'm just going to face each side real quick. It doesn't matter the length on this, and it doesn't matter whether the hole I just drilled is concentric with the outside. We need to bore this out anyway, and it will be, but the thing is, it's not going to go out a terrible amount, and I don't really care because it's just a temporary sleeve to get this thing working, not flopping around while I order some parts. It's not unusual for these mowers like this to have problems, even when they're in really good shape like this. That's a big time wear part, so that's it. I'm not worried about it. Are you? I'm actually using my turning cutter, but just at an angle. Lock the carriage. Doesn't like it, but it'll do it. I don't have a good tool in the one that I use for facing right now, so I'm kind of stuck with this one until I get another tool to put in there, or find another one. But this is not hard steel anyway. You don't need anything significant with this. Just to face it off, make it even. Another way you can do this is to come from inside out. Sometimes that's better when you're dealing with a tool like this. Chatters little, I don't care. Alright, now I'm going to make an adjustment to my boring tool, so I think I can get all the way through this and not be bored by it. So hang on. Alright, so I got the tool just sticking out of the bar a little bit here. This is kind of a modified boring bar to go in this OXA, whatever. And this has to go pretty far out. As I mentioned before, I measured it. It's going to be a pretty thin wall. So sometimes this doesn't like to do this. Depends on tool angle and tool grind. I think I got it set up where it needs to be, but let's give it a shot and see at the current speed and feed that I got it at. I'm going to go ahead and gauge the feed again so we can try it out. I'm taking a light cut here, but it's going to be oblong because that hole isn't centered. Cattywampus cut, but that's okay. That's not terrible. Now I can't get the tool long enough to go through the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it through as far as it'll go, and I'll turn a piece around. This will be my final cut, doing a spring pass on one side of it. I had to regrind the tool. I didn't have enough proper angle on there for boring, at least this stuff. Shouldn't be getting blue chips out of material like this. Bad enough I'm getting that out of it. Ran through once more. All spring passes. I don't really care about the finish too much. Again, it's just a sleeve, take up a space. As long as it fits snug, I'm good. sure it'll be fine the way it is, because it just about fit. I took it out. A little trick you can do, if you're going to take a part out of the chuck, in one of these self-centering 3-jaws in particular, mark the part or the work, and then mark a jaw, and then just line it up to that mark when you put it back in, and it's going to be damn close enough. Because if you clock it off, it's going to be different, just the way it is. This boring bar is a little bit big for this work anyway. There's not a whole lot of chip clearance in there, but it's all I got to work with right now. We do what we can with what we have. Now I'll back the tool off and bring it out. And it's really not that bad of a finish. It really isn't for what I'm looking for. Alright, so it just slides over snugly. I finished most of that up off camera, and then we'll just kind of get it on. It's a little loose, that's fine. It's just before the cotter pin actually, so the cotter pin is going to keep it from moving much anyway. You know, it's temporary. It's just going to hold this thing in place. Now that won't fit in there right now, so I'm going to bang these out and really quick bore them out to whatever this is now, and then that won't take long, and put them back in. This will be done. Grease it all up. These come out as you'd expect, and since they're elevated off the deck by the wheel itself, in other words, they're not flush down here, we can just lay it here. We don't have to jack it up. I think this little, if you picture it this way, I think this little clearance goes to that fitting side. Otherwise, it would be blocking off that hole. That's pretty much, I think, what all that's for. We'll see when we bang this one out. Oh, yeah, actually, you see it. See? You can see it right down in there. There's a little clearance. See it? All right, now I'm going to mic this up right there. See what it is. Well, I'm just going to use the calipers. It doesn't have to be all that tight. Like I said, this is temporary. You know, you got to lay it. You might as well just make something. It'll hold it for now. Grease it up. Put the thing back together. The other side I'm not going to worry about because it isn't that bad. And I'm just going to order new ones of this. You know, 40 bucks an axle for a mower in this nice shape is really not that bad. You know, 46-inch deck. I mean, this thing is clean otherwise. Again, this is really a common wear thing. I'm not really worried about it at all. There's only 20,000s I got to take off these, but see the chip? This is cast iron, or some sort of, not cast iron, but some sort of a iron, or a, I don't know, some sort of a sintered material perhaps, because it's coming off like cast iron chips. That kind of makes sense because it actually makes a really good bearing material. I'm kind of really surprised that it did this. 5 more or so, 6. Give it a couple for clearance. Should be about right. Didn't get much better than that, let me tell you what. And we'll put them back in the wheel and slide it on after we clean everything. Everything's got to be cleaned here now. Pretty dirty. This is alright. I cleaned that shaft. I said shaft. I cleaned that shaft already, but let me clean all these stuff up and put it back in and then grease it and we'll see. You know, the sleeve fit pretty good right between these two, these bushings, you know, lengthwise. I mean, I couldn't have made it any better. I was a guess too, but it's pretty firm in there because, you know, nothing's 100% concentric, but it'll work. And so this grease fitting is not going to work anymore because now I have a sleeve in here that goes across the entire length of it, but I don't care. So I'm going to be putting new ones on with new bushings in the near future. So we'll get that on like that. And alright, well, it's a little snug, but I think it's from thrust. It may not have one of those bushings in all the way, but you know what? Like I said, it'll wear in for, you know, for what we want to use it for. It's not going to be a problem, but we don't have all that slop anymore. And you know, I got plenty of grease in there. I'll have those parts within a week or two or less, and then I'll just change them out. But you know, it's just something I just wanted to take care of this one because it was really bad. You could see from when I showed you the front end with weight on it, you know, that one was resting properly with certain amount of outward camber, I guess it is. And this one was not, because it was syncing up like that. So, you know, I said, what the hell, might as well at least fix this one. And yeah, the other one's loose, but it's not as bad. Now I'll fill the other one up with grease, but this will be fine for now. I think we'll close it out right here. That was kind of a fun job to do. I always like jobs where I can use my lathe to fix something. Now I got a mountain of chips to clean up again. I just had all that cleaned up for like the 18th time, because every time I clean it up I need to do something. So speaking of do something, as I mentioned before, we'll put a new air filter on it with a new pre-filter, which is falling apart here. Change the oil, put an oil filter on it. I'm going to check the RPM using the hardline unit, the digital tachometer dealio. I have a video on this one, using it on the Magna to check RPM. I don't really know what to set it for in a single, but I'll look at the information and see what they say to do that. The reason why I'm saying that is because I think it's running too slow. RPM wise, when it's wide open, it just sounds it. I'll have to look up what the baseline RPM is. It's probably something like 3,600. How do you adjust the RPM on these is by manipulating the spring tension for the governor arm. Usually there's a tab, it's probably, I can't really see it, where the spring terminates onto the fixed part of the motor. And you bend that, I think you tighten it a little bit, like bend it away from the arm. I can't exactly remember. On this one, you know, each motor's set up sometimes a little different in regards to which way things move, but we'll take a look at it and see when we start it up which way the arm moves when it comes up to RPM, because it'll come up like it's pulling the throttle at a certain direction, which will generally be closed. And then we can fight that closure by tightening up that spring where it holds it open at a given RPM based on the centrifugal force of that governor in there. So we'll probably do a quick video on that one, but as far as the rest of the maintenance go, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's kind of a neat mower, and it's in really good shape, and I needed a newer one, and a bigger one would be better. So I'll probably order a drive belt for it. I don't know how old this one is. And a deck belt, just to have them in stock. I mean, the deck belt looks perfectly fine, but the drive belt probably is too. That's kind of harder to see because it's way up in there, but the drive belt don't look bad either. But you have them in stock, that way I don't have to have downtime of the unit, said unit, if it wears out in the future. So speaking of future, watch for future videos like this. If you like what you see, subscribe, click the bell, you know what to do. Catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.